Alright, mate. So, there's this UFC fighter, yeah? He retires and ends up as a bouncer in a club. Then, all sorts of mental stuff starts happening. Proper head spinners. So, less chat, more action. Let's get straight into the story. We kick off with this fighter called Carter doing some underground fighting in a club. Just then, this bird called Frankie rocks up looking for him. She's never met Carter before, so she asks the barman about him. The barman points out Carter, the lad doing the fighting. Frankie's hoping he's the right geezer she's after. Meanwhile, outside the club, there's a shady bloke sitting in a car. Back inside, Carter's laying the smackdown on opponent after opponent, showing off his skills. Then, we see the mystery man from outside stroll into the club. He walks right into the fighting ring. Here's where we find out this bloke is actually Dalton, a mega famous UFC fighter. He's come to fight Carter. But Carter bottles it as soon as he sees Dalton. He knows fighting Dalton would be like signing his own death warrant. So he spouts some nonsense and scarps from the ring. Anyway, after all that, Dalton's heading home when a mugger jumps him with a knife, demanding his money. But Dalton doesn't flinch. Seeing how fearless he is, the mugger looks him in the face and gets such a fright, you'd think he'd seen a ghost. Naturally, the mugger legs it. Then, Frankie, the girl from before, has followed Dalton. She tells him she came looking for someone strong, that he's even stronger than she imagined, so much so that the club's top fighter ran off rather than fight him. But Dalton ignores her and starts treating his cuts. Seeing this, Frankie tells Dalton her problem. She says she owns a club herself, but it's constantly getting trashed by hooligans who get Larry and wreck the place. The bouncers she's got can't control them. So, she's looking for someone powerful, like him. But Dalton tells her he's not interested in the slightest. Tells her to try Carter. But the girl gives Dalton her card and says please to think about it. If he changes his mind, to give her a bell. After all that, Dalton goes to a petrol station. Knackered, he falls asleep in his car. But a police officer wakes him up and tells him to move on. Suddenly, Dalton has a brainwave. He drives his car onto the train tracks. A train's hurtling towards him. Seeing this, Dalton tries to save himself at the last minute and move the car. But it's too late. The train smashes into the car, wrecking it. Dalton, after getting over the trauma, decides to help Frankie. So the next day, he heads to Florida. After a bit of searching, he finally finds Frankie's Roadhouse Club. As soon as he walks in, he meets Laura, a barmaid. He also meets Billy, who's over the moon to see Dalton because he's a massive fan. That day, Dalton sits in the club, drinking tea and coffee, praising the town. He can't believe that fights break out in this lovely, peaceful town. But as night falls, the atmosphere in the club starts to get edgy. One after another, blokes get drunk and start brawling. Billy tries his best to stop the fights, but it's no use. Dalton just sits there, watching it all. Then, Del, a gangster, walks in with his gang. As soon as they see Del, all the customers scarper. Billy can't get a grip on the situation, so finally, Dalton comes over to Del to calm things down and tells him, "Let's go outside. We'll sort out the issues and then come back in." But Del isn't having any of it. So Dalton calmly walks out of the club towards Del's motorbike. Seeing this, Del and his blokes come outside. Again, Dalton tells them to leave without any trouble. But Del keeps egging him on to fight. So Dalton gets angry and batters them all, warning them to leave. But Del was battered. He jumps Dalton again. So this time, Dalton batters them all, breaking their bones. Then, he takes Del and his blokes to the hospital in Frankie's car. After dropping off Del, Dalton is about to leave when a doctor named Ellie, annoyed by all the trouble, tells Dalton that she is tired of seeing the fights and that she will tell the police everything. Hearing this, Dalton laughs and says that if the police did their job properly, these things would not happen. Ellie realizes that the police can't do anything, so she takes Dalton inside and bandages his wounds. When Dalton returns to the club, Frankie is amazed by his work and gives him a lot of money. That night, Dalton had a dream about his old UFC fighting scenes. So Dalton was gradually adapting to life in this town. And in these few days, Dalton and a girl named Charlie became very good friends. Dalton learns that Charlie's mother died a long time ago, and her father is doing 2 jobs to somehow support their family. Charlie is trying to help her family by running this bookshop. We then see 2 thugs named Rui and John. They were telling their boss Ben that last night a club bouncer beat up their gang, Del and some other friends. Hearing this, Ben gets angry. He decides to destroy the whole roadhouse. We then see the club again, where several thugs had started causing trouble again. This time, Dalton puts Billy in charge of dealing with it. The lad was dealing with the thugs well, but when one thug pulls out a knife, Dalton steps in to save Billy. Together, they beat the thugs again and kick them out. Dalton had also trained Billy in various ways to make him stronger. Dalton also meets a boy named Reef in the area, who is also a boxer himself. Dalton asks him to be a bouncer at their club with them. Reef agrees, and that night, Reef and Billy together face several thugs. But there, another boy kept harassing Lara to get free alcohol from her. Seeing this, Dalton comes there and throws the boy out of the club. But as he went outside, Dalton saw that Del had come outside the club with some more thugs. And Del tells Dalton from a distance that he will see to him that he has no forgiveness. Anyway, the next morning, when Dalton was eating at a restaurant, he meets Ellie, the doctor girl. Dalton asks her why the people of this town are so aggressive. They always seem to be ready to fight. Ellie tries to explain to him that these illegal activities have recently increased a bit in this area. But while explaining all this, Ellie seems to like Dalton. Anyway, that night, when Dalton was talking to Frankie, Frankie tells him that this club was founded by her uncle. She also shows Dalton the picture of her dead uncle. Frankie also gives him a lot of money for Dalton's good work. As Dalton was going towards his boat with the money, a car tries to hit him from behind. Del had actually come to kill Dalton by hitting him with the car. But Dalton somehow falls into the water while fighting with him. Still, Dalton somehow manages to swim to the shore. But there, Del was already waiting for Dalton with a gun. Here, they start fighting again. But as always, Dalton keeps beating and explaining to Del not to increase these troubles anymore. But Del was not listening to anything. And just then, suddenly, a crocodile comes out of the water and swallows Del alive. The next morning, when Dalton was worried about all this, a fisherman told Dalton that Del seemed to be taking care of the drug mafia in this area. Hearing this, Dalton becomes even more worried, because if that were the case, there would be more powerful people behind Del who could cause more trouble. So, he goes to Charlie's library to be sure. There, he researches a lot about the drug mafia in this area, but he doesn't get any information. After that, when Dalton was returning home, some of Ben's thugs were showing him guns and asking him about Del. But Dalton, not being afraid at all, breaks the hand of that thug and warns his boss Ben that he has messed with the wrong person. He tells him to stop all this now, otherwise he will not let anyone survive. Hearing these words, another thug comes there in fear. Then, Dalton tells him to tell his boss to meet him this evening if he has the courage. After that, Dalton goes straight to Frankie and asks her why there is so much trouble in her club. Why is every thug's eyes on it here? Frankie doesn't tell him anything in detail about this matter, and on the contrary, she forbids him to even think about all this. Seeing the situation like this, Dalton starts having a lot of doubts. On the other hand, the two thugs who were beaten by Dalton go to their boss Ben, and when they tell Ben everything about Dalton, he gets very angry. And also then, Ben's father Gerald calls him again. But Ben is so angry right now that he throws his phone into the sea without even talking to his father. Anyway, when the scene changes, we see Knox, a psycho who has just been caught red-handed by his girlfriend's husband while having an affair. He and Knox were wandering around the city without clothes in that condition. That's when Ben's father Gerald calls Knox and assigns him the task of punishing his son Ben and solving Ben's problem. Knox happily agrees to do that job. In the morning, Dalton notices that Dr. Ellie has brought a police boat to see him. Although Dalton is surprised, Ellie tells him to come for a sea ride. After that, they both go for a sea ride. And finally, sitting in the middle of the sea, they both start talking, where Ellie wants to know about Dalton's old life. But Dalton doesn't tell her anything. He wants to leave from here. But Ellie tells him that she has come here after doing a lot of research on you. I know everything about you. While saying all this, they both come very close to each other. Meanwhile, Knox had reached this town by then. He meets Ben and first punches him in the nose and says that this is the punishment for not picking up your father's phone. Ben realizes that his father has sent Knox to help him. Anyway, by the time Ellie had just dropped Dalton off at the beach after the sea ride, and just then, some policemen come and arrest Dalton. Among them, a police officer named Mike used to work for Ben. He keeps threatening Dalton in various ways inside the car. But Dalton was not afraid at all. So Mike decides that he will kill Dalton today. They were all about to hit Dalton. But then Ellie comes there and slaps Mike straight away and rescues Dalton. And on the way, Ellie tells Dalton that Mike is actually my father. He used to work for Ben's father Gerald before, and now he works for Ben. I live separately with my mother because of my father's actions. And seeing all these troubles of Dalton, Ellie tells him that you should leave this town. Hearing all this, Dalton gets very frustrated and comes to the club. And here, Ben was waiting for him, where he sits next to Dalton and starts showing him the video of his last UFC match, where Dalton's opponent boxer had won the match. That's why Dalton got angry and beat that boxer so much that the poor guy died inside the boxing ring. And since that incident, Dalton had quit boxing. After that, Ben goes out of the club and orders Knox to destroy this club. As usual, Knox comes inside the club and starts vandalizing it, and poor Billy and Reef are trying to stop them together, but they can't do anything. Even after seeing all this, Dalton sits there quietly, and seeing all this, Knox keeps provoking Dalton to fight. Even though Dalton doesn't want to fight, finally, after hearing Knox's words, he gets down to fight and beats Knox and kicks him out of the club. And getting news of such a fight, the police reach there. Knox immediately stops fighting, and Ellie comes there to take Dalton. But Dalton, instead of going with Ellie, starts going towards his boat. He now decides to leave this town, so Frankie comes there to stop him. She keeps apologizing to Dalton for hiding a lot of things. Actually, Ben wants to take over this club of hers. He wants to build a resort here for this. And that's why so many thugs fight in this club every day. She requests Dalton that if you leave, they will take away this club, which is my last resort. But Dalton leaves from there without saying anything. But on the way, Dalton sees that the thugs have burnt down the library of the girl named Charlie. Even the girl is injured and is now admitted to the hospital. Getting this news, Dalton gets so angry that he throws away all his luggage and goes to Knox's house to beat him. But after going there, even though he doesn't find Knox, he sees another thug named Wings. He learns that they have burnt Charlie's shop because Charlie was Dalton's friend. So Dalton immediately beats Wings and throws him into the swimming pool after breaking his neck. we understand that the demon inside Dalton has awakened. And just then, Dalton sees another thug there. And instead of giving him mercy, he learns some secret information from that thug about the source of Ben's money. Like tomorrow, Ben's collected crores of rupees will be transported from a location. As soon as Dalton learns that location, he goes to his house. But even tonight, he was not able to sleep in any way. As soon as he closed his eyes, the scene of his last boxing match was flashing in front of him, where he had killed his opponent. Anyway, morning comes in this way, and Dalton goes to the location where Ben was transferring his black money. There, Dalton kills a few corrupt police officers and puts all the black money in a boat and releases it into the sea. After that, Dalton starts making some bombs, and just then, Mike comes there, and he tells Dalton that Ben has kidnapped my daughter Ellie. They will not leave Ellie until you return the money. As soon as he hears this, Dalton takes a boat and goes to meet Ben. On the other hand, we see Knox, who when returns to his house relaxed, sees that his house has become somewhat silent. Anyway, Dalton had reached Ben by then. There, a thug named John punches him in the face first when he doesn't see the money in his hand. And then, when Dalton comes in front of Ben, he sees that Ellie's father Mike is sitting here. And Ellie's father tells him that Ellie has not actually been kidnapped. I have brought you here by lying. But Ben says that I have really kidnapped Ellie. Hearing this, Mike gets very angry. After that, Ben tells Dalton to return my money, otherwise I will kill Ellie. Before this sentence is finished, Knox starts coming there with a boat. Seeing him, as soon as Dalton presses the remote of his bomb, Knox's boat explodes. Everything gets destroyed. And in this opportunity, Dalton somehow finds Ellie inside the bricks. They both break the window of this sinking yacht and get down into the sea. They were trying to swim away. But just then, we see that Knox is alive, and he is coming to kill them with another boat. Dalton somehow catches another thug and hits Knox's boat. This allows Knox to move away a bit, and he puts Ellie in another boat to save her. But Ben was sitting in that boat. He quickly starts running away with Ellie in his boat, and just then, Knox comes again to kill Dalton. This time, Dalton fights with Knox and throws him off the boat, and runs to catch Ben with Knox's boat himself. But Knox had not given up yet. He was stuck behind Dalton's boat, holding a rope. Seeing all this, Ben turns his boat and goes to kill Dalton. And at the same time, Dalton jumps and goes to Ben's boat. Now he was just about to kill Ben. But just then, Ellie says to jump off the boat, otherwise this boat will hit the shore. So they both jump off this boat, and Ben crashes into that roadhouse with the boat. Not only that, Knox, who was holding the rope behind the boat, had also reached the shore by then. He hijacks a car and leaves for the roadhouse. And on the other hand, a fierce fight starts between Dalton and Ben at the roadhouse. But by that time, Dalton had got so angry that he was breaking all the bones of Ben while beating him. And just then, Knox arrives there with the car. As usual, a fierce fight starts between Knox and Dalton. None of them were giving up. Knox hits Dalton with a piece of wood. He was just about to kill Dalton, but just then, Ben calls Knox and says that your biggest job is to save me. Take me to the hospital first. Hearing this, Knox gets so angry that he kills Ben himself. Then he was just about to kill Dalton, but then, seizing the opportunity, Dalton stabs Knox in the kidney and kills him there. And finally, when the destruction is over, Ellie and her father Mike come there. Seeing so much, Mike just tells him that, you leave this town, I will see to all this. And as usual, after this incident, Dalton starts leaving this town. Ellie, Frankie, Charlie all try a lot to stop him. But Dalton leaves everyone and goes to his new destination. And with this incident, the story ends here. So do tell in the comments how you liked the story. I am taking my leave for today. Bye.